Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first podcast. I'm Anubis.
I'm Kiddo.
And I'm Hate, and here today we're going to go over some of the new cards in the new expansion, Journey to Ungoro, and we're going to start off with Verdant Longneck, the first Druid common card.
Now, we're going to be going by class so that all the cards make sense.
Now, Verdant Longneck is a 5-cost 5/4 beast with the Battlecry Adapt. Now, Adapt is a interesting mechanic, one we haven't really seen before.
It's brand new, and it confuses me.
Yeah, you're going to get to pick between three different things. Now, there are a list of things that you can see on the side there. Personally, I think the most important is going to be Stealth, the +3 health, and the +3 attack for all of the different expansion cards.
I think it's an interesting mechanic, and I appreciate that they're innovating new ideas for it, and I think having 10 options is actually pretty broad. You know, you can see it as like Kazakis or whatever, except without having to have the Reno problem with it.
Right, I see what you're saying, and I think it'll be good. I think that it's not going to make or break the game.
Yeah.
I think that it's just going to be a feature.
Most of the cards, most of the adapt pieces, they all benefit. Like, there's no downside. No matter what you get, in some way, it's going to help the card.
Yeah, basically, and most cards that have Adapt aren't going to have great stat lines, like the whole 5-mana 5/4. Other than that, Verdant Longneck is a beast and it's a common, I don't really think it's going to see that much play overall.
I agree. Now, moving into the second card, we have Living Mana for Druid.
It's going to transform your mana crystals into 2/2 minions and then recover whatever mana when they die.
Now, it is a 5-cost, but do you have any thoughts on that?
You can really compare this to, I guess, I think it's Force of Nature. Summon 3 2/2 trends for, I think, is it 5 mana or 6 mana?
It sounds about right.
The good thing about that card when it was still actually played was that they all came with charge, so you play Savage War the same turn.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going to be able to do that with Living Mana, especially since if you want the full value, you play it on turn 10 or probably turn 7 or something like that.
I agree. Now, another thing is Mass Dispel and Devolve would turn the late game Druid into a 1-mana Druid again. That's,
really?
That's something. Yeah.
It would change everything?
It's actually in the card text or the minion text. So Mass Dispel would immediately take out the benefit of getting the mana back when they die. So I personally don't think it'll be played. I think that it's too big of a liability. They don't have charge. You can't. Silencing any of them would hurt too much.
Yeah.
But I think you'll see it in some fun decks every now and then. Maybe that with Cenarius giving all your minions +2/+2, that sort of thing. I think we'll see something.
Yeah,
like
that'll
that.
work.
Yeah, I think it might help Token Druid out. It's not really a seen deck either. I mean, there's no way you're going to ever see this in Druid or J Druid or anything like that. And it has like nothing in Beast Druid.
Yeah, going off what you said with Cenarius, though, if you use all of your mana crystals and you give them +2/+2, that could be a game changer.
Right, and now, next up, from the Hunter class, now that's all the released Druid cards. From the Hunter class, there's Tolvir Warden, a 5-cost 3/5, with the Battlecry. Draw 2 1-cost minions from your deck.
Hey, you guys have seen Spy Kids, right? The second movie?
Sorta, yeah.
I've never seen Spy Kids.
This guy totally looks like one of the gorilla spider warriors that's found on the island. I just had to add that. He reminds me of it too much.
I've seen from the expansion from my own personal experience, most of the Tolvir cards are really broken for what they need to be done. So we're gonna see in a little bit the Hunter quest or whatever. Battlecry draw 2 1-cost minions is really insane for that deck.
Yes, especially with the card that the quest hunters are getting. That's another thing we haven't talked about is quests yet, but the Marsh Queen quest is play 7 1-cost minions, and you're going to get Queen Carnassa, which is going to shuffle 15 1-cost
3/2s, isn't it?
3/2.
Yeah,
Raptors.
3/2 Raptors. That's going to shuffle 15 of them into your deck. It's going to increase the size massively.
This
but
automatically.
with Tolvir Warden, that could bring out just as many as we want.
This really automatically just brings a new archetype for Hunter that I think it really needs since no one plays Hunter right now. And since I think maybe Secret Hunter will still be played, but no one really plays Face Hunter anymore or anything like that. But we could also see Control Warrior with the new card for the new legendary that they're also getting.
Now, something that I want to say about Hunters, they have historically had problems drawing cards, and obviously with all these, you're going to get 1-cost 3/2 draw cards. Would that take away the problems that they have?
Yeah, especially with Scavenging Bird, that really helps out once you get everything going, because you can just play Scavenging Bird, and by the time you actually get this quest done, you'll probably be either in the turn 10 or you'll be earlier. But by turn 10, you play Scavenging Bird, and you already draw 5 cards.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
That'll work. Now, they're adding, we've already seen the first legendary, and that's going to be Swamp King Dread, which is after your opponent plays a minion, he automatically attacks it. He's a 7-mana 9/9. And I feel like he might pair well with the other legendary that they have for Hunter that's already out, which is King Crush. Both of them are the high mana cards that could change your game up.
Now, another thing that's interesting is if you have something like Jiraxis or something that changes your hero and you play this card, you're going to play it, and then it will deal 9 damage to Jiraxis.
Yeah.
But a downside to this is we're seeing all the new adapts, and one of them, if you look at the poison one, will actually give your character poison, which means that because the battle cry happens
if he attacks
first,
him, he's gone right then and there.
He's going to die.
Or even then, if you have something like a Divine Shield, that could...
You could whittle them down with Divine Shields, with poisons, with...
That really just is going to see how big the meta shifts or whatever, since we are in such a big aggro meta, where all you see is patches and shaman even.
I like patches.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, everyone likes patches.
Of course. Swamp King Dread could see play. Most people aren't running like, Pit Snake or King Cobra.
Yeah, but that might come into effect now.
It depends how big Adapt actually gets. Adapt might just be a fun mechanic, but
well,
it might not be
how many cards in total have they added
that
Adapt to? There's a lot so far.
We're not sure yet how many they're going to release because they're releasing all the cards next
they only
Friday.
have 44 out of the 135 that they have.
Now, one thing that is going to be interesting is that a lot of the cards that, or a lot of the classes that were weak are gaining stuff, but also things like Bran are rotating out. So you're not going to see Bran and then Adapt, and you're not going to see Emperor Thorsen for a lot of the combos. So it does. I do think that the meta is going to slow down, but I also think we're going to see a lot less of the big one-turn kill combos. So it may give time, as well as we'll see later on, the
make matches last longer.
Right, the early taunts and the clear abilities that they're adding, I think will slow the game down enough to give these cards play.
Now, would you want the game to slow down? Because honestly, in some cases, a longer game can be more fun, but it can also come down to that last piece that comes down to luck with your card draws.
Hearthstone in general is a luck game, but honestly, I would prefer to play a game that lasts 14 turns than 6 turns.
I agree. And another thing to remember is that when right now it's not fun facing a pirate warrior and losing immediately, you know.
Just 6 turns.
Yeah. Long games are also, remember, Reno's rotating out, so we are going to see less of the, say, Reno Priest with Justicar Trueheart, Reno Jackson.
Thank the Lord for that.
40, 50-minute games, we're not going to see that. So the next class is Mage, and the first common they have is Arcanologist, a 2-cost 2/3 with the Battle Cry, draw a secret from your deck.
Now, you guys haven't really played for that long, really, but there used to be a card from the first expansion called from Naxxramas. It was a Mad Scientist, okay, and it had the Death Rattle, play a secret from your deck automatically or whatever, right? And that made Mage really broken, okay? Arcanologist, I'm really scared for, but also happy about. Because this just makes Freeze Mage so much more scarier.
But what about the loss of Ice Lance?
That could cause problems.
Even with Ice Lance being gone, this could also be played in other variants of the deck. Still, being able to, if you're like in a pickle or just automatically turn 2, play Ice Barrier or get Ice Block from it.
Yeah, that would be
still insane.
Right from the get-go.
Now, one thing...
have that as certain protection.
Another thing that's very important to note is that because Reno Jackson is rotating out, and Reno decks probably aren't going to be that strong, something to remember is that a lot of these control classes that are doing good right now are going to get more cards. So you're probably going to see a second Fireball run for sure. You're going to see maybe a second Firelands Portal, a second Polymorph and Mage, so that will also give them more opportunity to do stuff.
Yeah, it's really just going to be see how we're going to see with the new mechanic for that we're about to see for Elemental.
Oh, right. So
Oh, yeah.
the second common for Mage that's been released right now is a 2-cost Flame Geyser. The card is a spell. It's going to deal 2 damage and then add a 1/2 elemental to your hand.
Now, that can be a really good start if you get that in your initial draw, as it's going to take out, say somebody puts down a 3/2, that's getting rid of them, and you've already got out a 1/2 as its replacement.
Now, the real question is, against Jade or against a Pirate Warrior, some of the stronger classes right now, as, Dragon Priest is kind of on its last leg, and a lot of the early, say Zulak, is this going to be enough? Is that going to stop
it? It really depends how big Elemental is going to be, because, from other, I've heard other reviews talk about this or whatever, it's competing against Frostbolt. Even though Frostlance is out of the game, a 2-mana deal 3 damage is still really big, and if Elementals aren't good enough, no one's going to want and add a 1/2 to your hand. The card would be probably even more broken if it automatically played a 1/2, but with the mechanic of Elemental, most of the time you have to play an Elemental before you do something.
Now, one thing to note, for a lot of these spells, it is actually better to hold the Elemental and play it, because especially at 1 cost, a lot of Elementals have the battle cry that if you played an Elemental on the previous turn, then an effect will happen. We mostly see this in Shaman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, now the next card that they've released for Mage is a rare 3-mana cost spell called Mana Bind. Now, it's a secret that when your opponent casts a spell, it's going to add a copy to your hand that costs 0. Now that, say somebody cast out Firebolt, Fire Blast, you can take somebody out for 0 mana.
And that's especially going to be good with Arcanologists, especially in the late game. If you're, say, playing Mage and you're against another spell-heavy class, or you're against something like Priest, who's probably going to start running Entomb again, I believe. Or is that rotating out?
Entomb is getting rotated out. It's part of League of Explorers. But I think the new card is going to be interesting. I mean, you could get, Fire Blast if you're going up against the mirror match.
Right.
And the other big cards you could get is if you're in a control matchup, you can play it up against Twisting Nether or whatever. It just depends how you can really get it. Next card we're going to be looking at is going to be the Mage Legendary Pyros. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with a Death Rattle. When it first dies, return it to your hand as a 6/6, and when it dies again, return it to your hand as a 10/10.
Now, I actually have seen this, and I think that if the meta slows down, I think it'll be a solid pick. Obviously, there's room for where it could be bad, and I think it would be... I just think that it's going to give you the potential to, unless it's silenced, obviously, or stolen or anything like that, it's going to give you minions to play over the long run. You're getting 3...
It starts off low with the 2 mana, but it's a guaranteed 6/6 after it dies, and then a guaranteed 10/10 right after.
Right. Now, the problem with the 10/10 is that is using your entire turn late game. And the 6/6, if you get this in your starting hand... Right. It's going to be tough to get it out, because a 6-mana 6/6 isn't the greatest thing when it's just a default card. But I think what would make this card good is the fact that in longer games, if we do see longer games, you're going to get 3 minions out of 1 card, and you're going to get a total... For 18 mana, you're going to get 18 worth of stats. So that's definitely something to look at, as well as trading is worth it.
It could be bad for overdrawing, though.
It depends. Usually Mage never overdraws. It is a very interesting card, and it can be paired up with N'Zoth the Corruptor. So you'll also get a 2/2, a 6/6. So then you also get another 10/10. Honestly, if it wasn't a 10 mana 10/10, I think it'd be better. I think if it was more like the Quest, where if it was like an 8 mana 10/10, it would automatically see play. But I think it's really, again, going to be how big Elemental is in this new meta.
That is true. So, next up, we have Paladin, a class that, in Gadgetzan has been very weak.
Sort of left out.
Yeah, right. So, it's a 2-mana common called Hydrologist. It's a 2/2, and the battle cry is Discover a Secret. Now, this can only be neutral and class secrets, so Paladin has some okay secrets, but is that card going to be that important? Because it's going to take up your next turn playing the secret for most.
I don't think it'll see any play. Murlocs aren't really going to be a big Paladin thing anymore. It's going to be shifted to Shaman, especially with the new quest coming out. And since Avenged was taken out of the game, or I think it's been taken out of the game already. Discovering a secret isn't really that good, which is why you don't see Secret Paladin anymore.
But do you think that they're going to end up adding new secrets to this card? Since we haven't seen all the cards that they add, do you think they'll end up adding secrets?
It has to really shift something really big. And if it's not something that big, you're still losing the one Paladin card which put all your secrets from your deck onto a field. That's what really made mid-range Paladin such a good deck.
Now, the next card that we have for Paladin is a common spell. 1 mana, summon 2 1/1 Silver Hand Recruits. Now, this is like the smaller version of the one card, forgot what it's called, but it summons 5 1/1 Silver Hand Recruits.
Now, I actually think that this card could definitely see play in Paladin because you're looking at, you get this in your starting hand, immediately you're going to have some tempo on the board, you know. You're going to get 2 1/1s. So it's a 1-cost 2/2 basically, but they have to clear it using 2 different spells. Now, I think that's pretty good for getting early tempo. And I think we'll have to see what else comes out with Paladin, obviously, but you could definitely see this followed by, say, Blessing of the Kings.
Okay, now the next card is an epic for Paladin. 8 mana, once again, spell called Dino Size, which is going to set a minion's attack and health to 10.
I think that it's going to be a slow card. It would have to be, you'd have to draw and already have your silver hands on the field or know that they don't have a way to play it. But
well, there's the thing. Your hero power is just 2 mana, and say you're up to the point where it's turn 10, you have 10 mana. You can toss down your 1 Silver Hand Recruit and then automatically set them to a 10/10.
I would agree that would be strong, and I think it has the potential, but you're looking at things like Mage and Warlock losing Reno. They're going to start running duplicates of, say, Siphon Soul maybe, or
Polymorph,
and you're already dealing with Shaman, has 2 hexes. So that is something that I don't think that it's going to be as strong as it looks. I think it would be very good, maybe with a charge minion, or maybe if it comes too late, I think, is what it comes down to.
I think it'll only see play just like you said, you hero power and then you put it down, or you could put it on a Divine Shield minion.
Divine Shield.
That might work.
Divine Shield and Charge would probably be the best bet for this
Also,
spell.
going back to Lost in the Jungle real quick, you can compare it to like Muster for Battle, which was in one of the older expansions. Or you can see it as the 5 mana play 5 Silver Hand Recruits.
Yeah.
That doesn't really see any play either, but because it's a 1 mana, you get 2 Silver Hand Recruits, it could see play.
Now, the next card for Paladin, the last card, is a legendary. It's a 6-cost. It's called Sunkeeper Tarim. It has Taunt and the Battle Cry set all other minions attack and health to 3. It is a 3 attack, 7 health minion, but is it strong enough?
Okay, so you would have to compare this to like the other Paladin, the Aldrich or whatever. Mm-hmm. That it turned all the other minions on the battlefield to 1 mana cards, or not 1 mana cards, 1 attack cards.
Yes.
And even though it has Taunt, which helps, you also got to see that it turns everything to a 3 attack and 3 health.
So if you're in end game for that, it could sort of screw you over in the fact that it's going to take all of your top tier cards and shrink them down. Or if the other team has a lot of low tier cards, it'll set all of those to 3/3. So that's like a guaranteed set structure. You can't easily take
it could
them out.
help, and you could see it played with possibly, as we said, the 5 mana card where you play 5 Silver Hand Recruits, or the other card where you 1 mana play 2 recruit. It could see play.
Now, one thing to note is Emperor Theresian is rotating out, so you can't see that combo, unfortunately. It would have to be a 2-turn thing. But I think that one thing to note is it's 7 health, so it is going to take 3 enemy minions to kill it, versus if it was 6 health or 9 health, it'd be a much better value trade for the enemy.
I think it would see play if it was better staggered at maybe like a 3/8. You know, something like, even though Paladin is in such a bad spot, I think giving them an actual good card would be good. But I mean, you could say that for the next legendary that's coming out.
Now, my question is, we've seen the Paladin cards, and Paladin obviously is missing a lot right now. Is it enough? Is Paladin going to be strong in the new expansion with what we've seen so far?
I don't. For right now, no. And then we don't have a picture of it, or we won't be able to bring it up. But someone might have leaked the quest, as you told us a little bit earlier ago. We don't know what the requirements are, but you get a 8 mana, or you get a 5 mana 8/8, adapt 5 times. Now, if that's what that card actually does, it would probably adapt a paladin-based thing, and Sunkeeper Terran would probably see no play.
Sunkeeper Terran would see no play. All right. So, as of right now, as it stands, Paladin is still gonna be a little in a tough spot.
Yeah.
But next up, we do have Priest, and Priest has gotten some good cards, I feel,
Okay.
even though they are losing their Dragon Archetype.
Now the first common is Tortolon Shellraiser, a 4 mana, 2 attack, 6 health taunt, which the Death Rattle gives a random friendly minion +1/+1.
Now, I think that losing some of the Dragon Priest losing its I believe it's a 4-cost taunt.
It's losing Twilight Guardian, which is the 4 mana 3/6 taunt if you're holding a dragon in your hand.
Right, now, will that take its place? Because if you look, it is actually more stats, technically, but less stats on the field.
It really depends how Dragon Priest goes. With everything that's leaving, it makes Dragon Priest such a big late game deck because all that's left are the basic dragons from the basic set, and they're all just heavy dragons. Tortolin Shellraiser will automatically see play in Death Rattle Priest when it comes out, if it actually turns into anything. Especially if the new quest.
So, the next card in Priest is going to be Crystalline Oracle. It's a 1-cost, 1/1, Death Rattle. Copy a card from your opponent's hand and add it to your hand. Now, it's an elemental, and I think that's going to be really strong with the new Priest quest, which is summon 7 Death Rattle minions, and you're going to get a card that we will talk about later.
It's definitely going to see play. It's a 1 mana, 1/1 shifting shade, basically, okay? The only problem with this card is that if you go in the late game, it's a dead card. The good thing about it is that your opponent doesn't know what card you're taking from them, which is the really interesting thing about it.
Right, so you are going to see, you can accomplish a lot, especially with all the new other cards coming out, stealing other Death Rattles or Elementals, and I think a lot of cards that don't currently see play will see play. And I think it's going to be really strong to steal a lot of those.
Yeah, as this card is a new elemental, do you think it'll end up getting paired with other elementals or being brought out?
I definitely think that it'll be... I think it's good without being an elemental, but I think it will see play with.
It definitely is just how elementals come and if they break the game or not.
Right. So next up we have a 3-cost 2/3 called Mirage Caller. The battle cry, choose a friendly minion and summon a 1/1 copy of it. Now, one thing I want to say before we talk about the card is that the Priest quest is summon 7 Death Rattle minions, not play 7 Death Rattle minions. So this does contribute to the Priest quest.
Yeah, okay, so if it does do that, it'll definitely see play. Other than that, you could see it as kind of like Herald.
Right, I agree with that.
Is Herald a summon, or is it...
Herald is summon a 1/1 copy of your other minions.
Herald might see play in this deck, though. It's definitely an interesting card, and as we said, all cards that look like this art are OP for what they have to do.
Right. Now, I think that a 3-cost 2/3 obviously is weak for the stat line. You're going to have to be able to copy a good card, and what kind of cards could we see it copy?
Well, wouldn't you see the card end up being forced into late game then? Because when you summon a 1/1 copy of certain cards, they're not going to be useful unless the card has a special ability.
Well, not necessarily.
This is an easy fix. You just choose a friendly minion and you choose the 1/1, the Death Rattle 1/1.
That is true.
If it does somehow survive, because most people won't want to kill it, you can easily just copy another one and bam, you could just do turn 1 that card and then coin. And you summon a 1/1 copy of it.
Now that's going from the second perspective, and
Yeah.
one thing is that it does have a strong late game with a lot of the cards that are out there. I think it'll see some play. I think the stat line itself is weak, and I think it ends up depending on how strong the Priest quest itself is. Next up, we have an epic spell, a 2-cost Shadow Visions. Discover a copy of a spell in your deck. Now, I think that's very strong, especially with some of the quests that run. So you can play this, and depending on who you're against, you pick a Shadow Word Pain, Shadow Word Death, Holy Fire, something like that you need, and you have another set. I think that's very strong.
Yeah, and since Discover, that's going to give you 3 options that you already have specifically in your deck. So you get to choose and manipulate your own deck early on.
It depends. I mean, yeah, it's strong. But you're only going to be looking for certain things. Pain, Death, Holy Fire maybe, and then maybe as well Mind Blast. This could easily make Mind Blast a deck. Because if you run cards right, but you only run Mind Blast, you're gonna get 4 Mind Blasts.
Now, also imagine with Prophet Velen, you know.
Yeah, Prophet Velen will still be here.
So if you play Prophet Velen and say the summon a 1/1 copy of another minion, Prophet Velen's only 7 cost. You can do that in one turn, and then the next turn, you know, you're looking at what is it, 15, 20 damage from each Mind Blast.
And it's it'll be 10 damage every single time, but you can also look at it as the fact, even though it's 2 mana, you can compare it to other Discover cards with only 1 mana. But the fact is that you're guaranteed a spell in your own deck, and discovering a spell
deserves that extra mana.
it's much stronger than finding a random card.
Right. Now, the next card coming up is another epic for Priest called Curious Glimmer. It's a 3-cost 3/3 with a Battle Cry. Look at 3 cards. Guess which one started in your opponent's deck to get a copy of it. Now, guessing is new. That's never been done before.
But no, the question is, what if you get later on in the game? Is this like cards that are already in their deck right now and you're guessing which one started, or are they going to give you 2 options that didn't start in their deck, 1 option that did start in their deck, and it can be any time during the match?
It is the ones that started in their deck, not ones currently in. So I think it's honestly going to be more important at telling what your opponent doesn't have versus what your opponent has.
I really don't like this card whatsoever.
Like it?
I hate that it adds even more of a luck factor into this game.
Yeah, it takes less strategy. It's all in. You have no idea what cards he's gonna draw at the beginning. So this is all luck. You're just gonna grab one and be, oh, let's hope that they have it.
Well, this card is what started in their deck, so it's of the original 30 cards. And one thing is like currently against say a Reno lock, for instance, you know that they're always going to be running Reno Jackson. So if you see Reno Jackson in the options listed, you know there's a high chance.
Well, yeah, but it's also saying it started, which means it'd have to be in their starting hand, correct?
No, which one started in your opponent's deck?
Oh, see, this is
Which
also
one started in your opponent's
This is a really
deck?
weird way that they texted and written it. But I think it's an interesting card. I personally don't like it, and I'm not sure if it's gonna see play.
Right now, three mana 3/3 is not the best, but moving on, we have Awaken the Makers, a really cool card, I think. It is another one of the new quests for a Priest, and the quest is summon 7 Death Rattle minions, and the reward is Amara, Warden of Hope. Now, Amara, Warden of Hope is a 5-cost 8/8 with Taunt, and the Battle Cry sets your hero's health to 40.
Now,
I think that's very strong.
That could, late game, that's like an even worse version of Reno Jackson, in my opinion. Because if you get down to 1 health and that thing's going to set your hero's health to 40, that's not like giving yourself 29 health. That's going to give yourself 39 health.
And
that's going to offset the game. Not only that, it's a taunt with 8/8. So you've got basically the field locked down and you just gave yourself 39 health.
It is true. And I think that against something like Jade Druid, I think, would be very strong against a Priest deck running this, because obviously you're going to, depending on how the game turns out, you will be able to continue grinding down all minions. But I think that this will be very strong, depending on, we'll see something like N'Zoth the Corruptor and other things like that. But I think that we will see this card be used in most Priest
Yeah,
decks.
this card is definitely absolutely broken, okay? The only thing is that how fast can you play 7 different Death Rattles? But if that's not how that works, the card is still absolutely insane. It's a 5-mana 8/8 with Taunt, set your hero to 40. You're not healing, you're setting your health to 40. It's basically Alex Strauss.
Yeah, that is true. Now, next up in Rogue the next class is Rogue, and the first card is a rare 3-cost called Mimic Pod. Draw a card and then add a copy of it to your hand. That's pretty strong, depending on what you draw and how decks end up looking, especially with the new Rogue quest where you need to play 6 minions with the same name.
See, now even then, that gives a little bit of luck, because depending on what you draw, it can change. If you get a really nice 5-mana card that's going to just basically change the field, or you get a double destroy the field, it's going to take it out.
I think that it's going to add a lot to the game, and obviously your opponent will know or will not know what you drew a second of. I think it'll see play depending on how good the Rogue quest ends up being.
I don't think it'll see any play whatsoever. I think Miracle Rogue is too strong of a deck, and the Legendary definitely doesn't help. It's both of the new Legendaries that are coming out. The quest isn't strong enough. Play all of your minions are 5/5. That's like trying to turn Rogue into a Zoo deck, which is not what it wants to be.
But you may see with Rogue losing things like Conceal, they do have spots for cheap spells.
Yeah, it really just depends. I think Miracle Rogue will still be the heavy hitting, or maybe Water Rogue is still going to be the best thing here.
Okay, now the next card is an epic 5-mana cost 3/4, which uses combo Destroy a Minion.
Yep, Vile Spin Slayer is an interesting card because, obviously it's just outright destroy a minion. I think that it'll be a pretty good card. I think that it has potential.
It's going to be a pretty good late game card, as in it's 5 mana, so you're going to have to wait just a little bit to use it. But once it comes to that, just as you said, it's a destroy a minion, which is going to completely take out something. So that'll replace that while destroying an entirely different card for only 5 mana.
This
Right.
might see play. I think it still costs a lot, and it's not that great of stats, but I guess you could look at it as like Assassinate. 5 mana, automatically destroy a minion. This you have to play a combo for, so it's automatically going to cost more than 5 unless you play a coin.
Right.
So it might see play. The next card, and probably the final card that we're going to look at here, is Corpse Flower. And it is a 4 mana 5/3. When it dies, go dormant, and once you play 4 cards in a single turn, revive this minion.
Now, one thing is that it's going to permanently take up 1 spot on the board for the entire game. Now, or once you play it. Now, I think with Miracle Rogue being so strong, I think it could see play. I think it would depend on other cards, because one thing we are not sure is if you buff the minion, does it remain the buffs? If you do double Cold Blood on it, is it going to stay that, and when it revives, it's going to
Most
have that?
likely when it revives, it won't end up having
And
the
when
stats
when
that it
it's
was buffed
when it's
with.
dormant, does it technically count as destroyed?
It is still on the board.
Okay,
Is it like
so
stealth, but you just can't use it?
yeah, I think it's like something unplayable, like with the Warlock quest, Another Portal. You can't touch it.
And since it's Death Rattle, it says that it goes dormant and you have to play 4 cards in a turn to revive this minion. What does it mean when it says in a turn? Because
A
that could
single
be...
turn.
Is it after he dies, or is it while he's still
I think,
dormant?
No, it's when he's dormant. He never dies. He doesn't leave the field, which is why I'm wondering if the Death Rattle effect actually goes off with this off. If it does, this makes the card really strong. It's a 5/3. Even
So
though
you
it
could get 2 from
yeah,
N'Zoth's
yeah.
first mate.
So even though it's poorly statted for 4 mana, it's a 5/3. It dies to a 2-drop. If that ability goes well, and especially if you're playing Miracle Rogue, this could see replacement for like Questing Adventurer, or other cards that they used to buff and conceal.
Azure Drake, potentially.
Yeah, Azure Drake. It makes the card really strong.
Now, finishing up Rogue is the Caverns Below, a quest for Rogue, and the quest is play 4 minions, actually not 6, but 4 minions with the same name. Now, that would be, say, 2 Swashbucklers. I'm not sure exactly if it needs to be 4 of the same minion.
I think it has to be 4 of the same, which is why you saw like the pod card where you get
Right.
it off. Now, this might not be an issue because there's you can't get Thessal Tea. Thessal Tea is moving out of the game, and that used to be the 6-mana draw 1 card, gain 2 more copies of it. But you could see another one. I don't remember what it.
Well, say if you played Doppelganger.
There you go.
But would that count as playing it since it just makes 2 copies, or would it just would that count as the 3, or would it only be the 1 Doppelganger?
It'd only be the 1 double gangster. What I think I'm looking at here is there's another rogue card. I don't remember what its name called, but you pick 1 card and it shuffles 2 more into your deck, and that's what they would play in the
quest.
and the burn one, the burn rogue deck with the Murloc card that makes you draw 2 cards. That could work. That's only if it actually stays in the meta. I'm not sure if it's actually leaving or not.
Now, the reward for this quest is a card called Crystal Core. It is a 5-mana spell that for the rest of the game, all of your minions are 5/5.
I don't like it. I think that like Heat said, Rogue is not a zoo deck. Rogue is trying to get big cards out there. So look at Edwin Van Cleef. You play Edwin Van Cleef, and you can get things like a 14/14 with the current Rogue, but now it's a 5/5. I don't think this card will stay.
I don't think so either. I think Miracle Rogue is going to stay the same, and I don't think they're going to make something like a Token Rogue or a Zoo Rogue. But this is, it's just not going to see play.
As well as with how hard it's going to be to
Actually
complete
get it
the
to work,
quest. Yes.
It'll be more of like a challenge thing to do, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay, now that's all we are able to do for this first podcast. Thank you guys for coming. We will be back to cover the rest of the cards. And hopefully, in the coming weeks, when they're all released, we will review all of those.
And we will probably give our input as to what we think the meta will look like.
Yeah.